Apart from the D levy, electricity prices have gone up. The prices that we were paying under the NPP administration, there's been increases about 2-3 times. In fact, when you do the estimates, you are looking at about 10 to 15 billion from electricity and water extra. These are monies that Felix and this administration, and you know the currency depreciates. So that must be put on record. Again, he also says that electricity prices have increased. You see, there's a bird called Anomago Koneko. Oh, it is important. Yes, it's important to address this. You see, there's a bird called Anomago Koneko. Okay. Essentially, they go to the estuary of the river and muddy the waters. Then they quickly run down south to lament how muddy the water is. Okay. And that is essentially what the MPP is doing. You see, in December 2024, in fact, as part of the IMF program, one of the things that they were required to do was periodic tariff adjustments. You know that in times past, up until 2015 or so, the petroleum downstream was not deregulated. So government used to pay what they call subsidy. In reality, government never had money to pay, so there was always debt. And as and when it became convenient, a huge increase was slapped on the price of fuel at the pumps. So we took a bold decision to do full deregulation. Credit must be given to President Ofosu because he did partial deregulation. But we did full deregulation. Since we did that, when was the last time we've heard of fuel shortage? Or an astronomical increase in fuel prices, save for the period under the MP between 2022 and 2024. That is because there's full cost recovery. When importers bring in fuel, they get the exact amount of money that they put into importing it. So there's no debt. They call it full deregulation. Electricity costs money to generate. And what we have often done is that government has committed to subsidies that it does not have the money to honor. So constantly there are debts. And then when it hits a critical point, we go into doomsday. Because the utility companies simply do not have a leeway out. As I speak to you, in this budget, the budget for 2025, the finance minister has had to pay 27 billion Ghana cedis to the energy ministry to give to operators in the sector as what they call energy sector shortfall. Because the amount of money it costs to generate electricity is far more than what they bring in. The difference has to be made for by government. And this year, 27 billion. Imagine what 27 billion Ghana cedis can do. Next year, because of the efficiency improvements, the situation has improved so that now it will be 15 billion, not 27 billion. And we hope to bring it down and eliminate it completely. You understand me? Because of this age-old problem, Kenofrata is on record to have said that increases in electricity that they did in April 2023 were a precondition under the IMF deal. And in fact, it is in the IMF document. In December 2024, when they went for the final tranche of the external credit facility that they could take because they were leaving office, about $330 million or so, they reached agreement, which is captured in the staff level report. IMF country report number 24/334, page 71. They reached agreement that they will do two things as prior actions to trigger the next release, which is that starting from the first quarter of this year, there will be quarterly tariff adjustments. Quarterly tariff adjustments. That quarterly tariff adjustment is supposed to address operational costs that arise during the year so that the companies don't spend more than they earn, which will make their operations unsustainable. So you find that they are marginal. Sometimes 3%, sometimes 4%. If you do that, for instance, if there's an increase in an input like crude oil or light crude to fire thermal plants on the world market, it is accounted for in the adjustment. If the dollar rises, making the import more expensive or other inputs more expensive, it is accounted for. If inflation rises to a point where it devalues the revenue they are making, it is accounted for. So that's what the quarterly tariff adjustment does. It is on page 71 of this document here. I can give it to you. Your producer can splash it on the screen. The full title of the document is that third review under the arrangements under the extended credit facility, request for modification of performance criteria and Financing Assurances Review, press release, staff report, and statement by the Executive Director for Ghana, December 2024. I will quote the number again. Anybody can go to the IMF website and download it. IMF country report number 24/334. Okay. And then they said that in addition to this quarterly adjustment, there is supposed to be a major tariff adjustment in September and October. That one is done between every 3 to 5 years. And indeed, when PURC announced the major tariff adjustment of 9% for electricity and 15% for water, they indicated that the major tariff adjustment, which the IMPP agreed to, is aimed at improving the asset base of the utility. So ECG and Ghana Water, they need equipment, they need transformers, and other things to sustain their operations. The quarterly tariff adjustment doesn't account for that. That one accounts for only operational costs, overheads. But in terms of the capital expenditure that they make, this tariff adjustment is to ensure that over the years it does not deteriorate and affect performance and efficiency. They agreed to it. How can you have agreed to a conditionality and taken $330 million for it in December 2024, and then come this year to complain that the very thing you agreed to, which binds us, because the IMF, they don't deal with parties, they deal with governments. The day we renege on this agreement, they can call off this program, and the consequences will be catastrophic. So the MPP cannot purport to be lamenting the implementation of the very policy that they have agreed to. It is not honest political, and they must stop it. It does not respect the people who they seek to lead one day. So that is that. Okay. Now, the final thing about La General Hospital.
And please be brief about
Yes, I'll be brief. I think the major points have been exhausted. Yes. This La General Hospital matter. Boye is here. They cast short for it in the run-up to the 2020 elections. And I recall, they splashed the entire ring road leading up to La General Hospital with billboards of Akufo-Addo and artist impressions of La General Hospital. 2020. Ask Okoe, when did they start that project? It took about a 4-year delay. Of course, again, COVID was the whipping boy. They blamed COVID and everything else under the sun for why they couldn't start. Eventually, they did not secure funding for it. You see, unlike UGMC, RAGE, and others, the the VAMED projects, and all the other hospital projects they inherited, which had financing secured. The UGMC, the money came from Hapoel Bank of Tel Aviv in Israel, $217 million. It was in an account. So as and when you raise certificates, you draw down on it. The RAGE money came from French sources. So it was a French, contractor that was executing it. The money was there. So you just continue. In fact, all that government needs to do is to do nothing. The project will go on. They didn't leave a dime for La General Hospital. So you saddle the government with a liability and make no provision for it. Agenda 111. Moro, you are a Muslim, but pardon me to quote the Bible. It says, somewhere in Proverbs, that who builds a house without sitting down to count the cost? You said that you will build 111 hospitals. In fact, the promise was first made sometime in 2019 when COVID struck. When President Akufo-Addo realized that John Mahama was getting all the plaudits for his investment in the major hospitals that were saving the day under COVID, he said they will build 88 hospitals in the space of 1 year. He failed to meet that target by the end of that 1 year. Then they metamorphosed, or they converted it into Agenda 111 and included more hospitals. If you do the computation, they needed close to $2 billion to complete it. You would have thought that if it was a priority, they will make provision like we have done for Big Push for this and put the money in an account dedicated solely to this project. They didn't do that. They were relying on the trickles that come into government coffers. So they were not able to open one for members of the public to use before they left office. Yet you expect that, and you had 8 years to do this. Yet they expect that the government that has come and been in power for about 11 months will be able now to complete all of this. Indeed, in the budget, we have said that we'll complete about 10 of the Agenda 111 hospitals next year. All right. And as and when we progress, we'll complete more. Okay. Even as others too that require critical attention are being done. Okay. So it is disingenuous to create such a mess. Okay. And then come and stand on the rooftops and insist that that mess should be cleared within such a short space of time. When you, within 8 years, could not finish one Agenda 111 hospital for anybody to access. Right. It is not proper. Okay. But finally, We also have other interventions. I spoke to you about, and the reason why I'm saying this is that people have asked, and it's my duty as government communications minister to answer it. The MPP and their propagandists have been on song, claiming that we said, oh, we will build in excess of 500 chips compounds. So where are they? Moro, one of the things that this government must be credited for is the fidelity that they've kept to the District Assembly Common Fund utilization. I don't know about Okoe boys. She falls under what was the municipality? Lejokuku. So I'm sure he has the records there. Under their time, the Common Fund was the scarcest commodity you can find because they were doing deductions at the center. So the money was not going. We have a policy that says that 80% of the Common Fund must go. And every day I raise the issue of AAK. 298,000 the whole of last year, as against 6.5 million by the middle of this year. By the close of this year, we expect about 19 million Ghana cedis. Now, in order to align this additional flow with government's overarching strategy and objective, we asked each assembly or municipality to abide by a set of guidelines. So I was in cabinet when cabinet approved it. Among other things, they are supposed to have what we call a 24-hour economy market. That is for areas where they don't have decent markets. So if you come to AAK, for instance, our district capital, Abu has a market that has been there since the 60s. Clearly, it has deteriorated and not fit for purpose anymore. So as I speak to you, land has been cleared for the construction of this 24-hour economy market. It will cost about 5 million cedis or so. And that's about 25% of the money is coming to the assembly this year. In addition to that, all these assemblies and municipalities and metropolises are required to have at least 2 chips compounds built out of the allocation this year. The reason for that is the implementation of the free primary health care. And he is a medical expert, so he would understand that you need a basic building block for healthcare. So that if you have minor ailments like headaches and stomach aches and some minor rashes and other things that don't require referral to higher levels of medical care, you can do so at the chips compound level. So as I speak to you, in AAK, 2 of them are almost complete. We expect that by the end of this year, we will commission both, one at Namedom, one at a place called Winyaba. And it is the same for almost every place. They are at various stages of completion. And once they are completed, they will be dealt with. Indeed, the local government minister, when he takes his turn at the Government Accountability Series, will give an update on this one. So, Moro, these are the issues that I wanted to address so that nobody distorts the facts.